Hey y'all, happy Wednesday. So let's dig right back in. We were in Ephesians 5:1 and talking about how well-beloved children imitate their father, how they use their dad as a role model. So Caleb, my little bitty baby, he's not little bitty, he's 6 months, almost 7 months, y'all. Time flies, whether or not you're having fun. So he is just getting to the point where he is trying to mimic what we do with our mouths. If we are making faces, he tries to make faces. He is hilarious with his tongue. I don't know what in the world he thinks we're doing, or just finding out that he has one. But we will make faces or do shapes with our mouth, and you can watch him try to do the exact same thing with his mouth. He is watching and then trying to mimic what we do. The big guys, I have a friend. Oh my goodness, I love her so much. One of my best friends, and her children, her son actually is 5, and he is his daddy made over. His father is his favorite person in the whole wide world. You know, and sometimes we moms try not to be offended that dads are the favorite. But he walks just like his daddy. He talks just like his daddy. And all he wants to do is be just like his daddy. I mean, I'm thinking about him right now as we're talking, and I'm watching him walk, and I mean, he is his daddy. And that's exactly what Paul is telling us here. And just a little bit of background. So Ephesus, right, is this huge church. And the Ephesians were a polytheistic society. They served so many gods. Mono is one, poly is many. So they were coming out of this culture that is immersed in the worship of so many gods. And so we talked about Timothy last week and how Timothy was the pastor of the church in Ephesus. So these Ephesians had no idea, none whatsoever, of how to live a life pleasing to the Father, or a life like Jesus. They had to learn. I see what you did there, Holy Spirit. They had to learn how to live a life pleasing. And so Paul is telling them, if you go back and read, I hope I've asked the Lord if later in the year we can just go through the book of Ephesians, that we can dig into it, because it is so rich. But if you read Ephesians chapter 4, and you know, these books that Paul wrote, they were epistles, they were letters. So they were not divided up in chapter and verse. It was just one letter. And so if you read before Ephesians 5:1 and you read after Ephesians 5:1, Paul is telling the church at Ephesus, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. This is how you live, this is how you don't live. This is acceptable, this is not acceptable. And so he is teaching them how to live. And so he says, be imitators of God. Make him your model. Use him as a pattern, as the example of how to model your life. And so I want to read that verse, Ephesians 5:1, in several other translations. So the Passion Translation says, be imitators of God in everything that you do. In everything that you do, be imitators of the Father. In everything. So it's not just pieces. It's not just hit or miss. It's not just, okay, on Sunday, these are the church things, these are the godly things, and then over here I have the other side. No, he says, be imitators of God in everything that you do. All of us be imitators of God. The Contemporary English Version says, do as God does. After all, you are his dear children. Another translation, I'm going to do that one. I'll do that one tomorrow because it ties in so well. The Plain English. Now this is one, if you're looking for an easy read version, this one's got you covered. Again, Plain English Version. You are God's kids. He loves you. So try to be like God. He is good all the time. You're God's kids and he loves you. So try to be like him. He is good all the time. Try to be like your Father. Again, not just in when we're studying and reading and yes and no, rules and don't, but when we learn his character, when we learn and when we experience his love, it makes us want to be more like him. So we're going to pick up here tomorrow. I cannot wait to tie all these things together. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.